is describing an infant as born into filth does not include love. How would you express the concept of an infant for our time?
What is being born, though we like to see it as pure and untouched appearance in the world, I think we know, even corporal genetic knows that it's not so. There is already an inclination. So a child is born as an expression of a will to receive. A will to receive to oneself is actually, is so soaked and need to be grown at the externality in order to be able to define itself, to define its will, to define its individuality. So individuality in the will to receive to itself in relation later, in comparison to what actually is needed, is not called for itself filth or klipa. Only later you discover that the way you actually form your individuality, or you form your will to receive from all the values that actually gave you life or gave you surviving power, or gave you the value of how to survive, how to succeed in this world, you will call it that which actually is blinding you, or one can say the filth on the window. Okay? That which is actually blocking your true vision. So you'll have to circumcise it. You'll have to circumcise it in order to see. Okay? In order to be able to see what actually is being, the possibility of what is demanded from you in order to build a meaningful story for yourself. And meaningful story for oneself is the story that we are able to serve the evolution of the spirit. So I would like to ask you, or everyone to ask themselves, how do you think a spirit feels an experience appearing here on a corporal life? What name she will call this kind of existence? So you see that Bala Sulam is very gentle.
I see that.
It doesn't smell very well, very good, you can say. So this is when it's something that is similar that I answered actually Pedro. To actually give it a name like this is not destroying it, is actually a perception, a spiritual attainment that actually can say, this is something that is an interference that I can even be grateful for, because if this interference of filth would not exist, I would not be able to see the difference. So this is where it becomes a maid. Yeah. So it's like lo lishma, but lo lishma is after you actually realize that you are in this state. So this state of actually allowing the spirit to live under the domination and control of our ego is a very gentle name. Okay, so this. Okay, so it's It's to do with an awakening. This is why I'm saying this. This portion is the budding of the consciousness that comes after circumcision of the heart, of the eyes, of actually submitting to the blindness of how we conducted ourselves so far. Okay. So it is, the Zohar is saying that what Abraham is seeing from the opening of the tent, when actually the left side is extending itself, which means there is, what happens when the left side is extending itself is the beginning of the conflict. But the conflict is the opening of everything. So what he's seeing, three people, three lines. You see himself, you see Isaac, and you see Jacob as actually aspects of the work, powers that need to work in combination. Okay? That is actually the first time that this is the part that one can actually perceive from Havaya. It's the whole of Havaya is standing there, and we can perceive only the part that we need to develop now in order to allow this part to become the part of human consciousness. Okay? And therefore, all the way we sort of conducted ourselves before seems to be blind, but from that dust and filth, we build our, one can say, our prayer or our consciousness. So it's a very actually precious filth.